A few months ago, I heard about an old abandoned train station on the outskirts of town. People said the place was haunted, with stories of a ghost train that sometimes appeared on the tracks at night. I've always been fascinated by the paranormal, so I decided to check it out for myself. It was a chilly evening when I arrived at the station. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the platform. The station was in ruins, with broken windows and overgrown weeds. The tracks were rusty, and the place looked like it hadn't been used in decades. I felt a chill run down my spine as I stepped onto the platform. I had a flashlight with me, but the fading light made everything look even more eerie. I walked along the platform, peering into the empty ticket booth and waiting room. The wind howled through the broken windows, creating a haunting melody. As I explored, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The main attraction was the ghost train itself. According to the stories, the train only appeared at midnight. I decided to wait, setting up my camera to capture any unusual activity. The hours passed slowly, and the station grew darker and colder. Every creak and rustle made me jump, but there was no sign of the train. Just as I was about to give up, I heard a distant whistle. It was faint at first, but it grew louder, echoing through the night. My heart pounded in my chest as I looked down the tracks. A light appeared in the distance, growing brighter as it approached. The ghost train was real. I grabbed my flashlight and stood frozen as the train pulled into the station. It looked like something out of a nightmare. The train was old and decrepit, covered in rust and grime. The windows were shattered, and the carriages seemed to be filled with shadows. A thick fog surrounded it, making everything look hazy and unreal. The train came to a stop, and the doors creaked open. I couldn't see anyone inside, but I felt a strong urge to step aboard. I took a deep breath and walked towards the nearest carriage. As I stepped inside, the temperature dropped, and the air felt heavy. The interior of the train was just as eerie as the outside. The seats were torn and covered in dust, and the walls were stained with something dark. I moved down the aisle, shining my flashlight around. The shadows seemed to dance and shift with the light, creating an unsettling effect. I reached the end of the carriage and opened the door to the next one. As I stepped through, I heard a faint whisper. It was so quiet, I almost thought I imagined it. I paused, listening intently. The whispering grew louder, and I could make out words. "Turn back," it said. "You shouldn't be here." A wave of fear washed over me, but curiosity pushed me forward. I continued through the train, each carriage more disturbing than the last. The whispering followed me, growing louder and more insistent. "Leave now," it said. "You are not welcome." I reached the last carriage, and the whispering stopped. The silence was deafening, and the air felt thick with tension. I shone my flashlight around, but there was nothing unusual. Just as I was about to turn back, I saw something move in the corner of my eye. I turned quickly, and my flashlight illuminated a figure standing at the far end of the carriage. It was a man, or at least it looked like one. His clothes were old-fashioned, and his face was pale and gaunt. He stared at me with hollow eyes, and a cold smile spread across his lips. "Welcome," he said in a voice that sent chills down my spine. "I've been waiting for you." I took a step back, my heart racing. The figure moved closer, and I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. I turned and ran, not stopping until I was off the train and back on the platform. The train whistle blew again, and I watched in horror as the train began to move. I stumbled away from the tracks, my mind racing. The train disappeared into the darkness, and the station fell silent once more. I didn't wait around to see if it would come back. I grabbed my camera and ran back to my car. I never went back to that station. Whatever was on that train, it wasn't something I wanted to encounter again. If you ever hear about the ghost train, take my advice and stay far away. Some things are better left undisturbed.